Hi everyone, it's Raleigh, and today I'm sharing my journey creating a simple gamify planner. I will be showing you the planner towards the end of the video, but I'm also going to share the process that I used. I worked on it sporadically over the last few months, and I didn't really record along the way, and so rather than kind of recreating notes I thought I would use this format instead. Also because it's been a while since I've gotten to do a video like this. I do it for work occasionally, so that was part of the creativity I wanted to throw in. And also, honestly, my notebooks are a little scribbly, so this seemed like the best route to go. I also want to add a disclaimer that this really is simply about sharing my journey. I enjoy creating planners, but I'm not an expert, but there's a lot of really talented creators who are. One in particular inspiration for this was Jashi Koren, who has set up a gamified planner system for the whole year that she's using. She's giving updates. I'll put a link to her video below, as well as a couple others. There's a lot out there that provide a lot more information and more of a follow along, but I wanted to share kind of how I did it. So the first thing I did was a bit of reflection. So I just did some thinking about, how I wanted to use this. I decided it wasn't really a task project specific thing. I did want it to be a more general one. I tend to group things mentally into three areas: kind of home, wellness, and finance. But I gave some thought to what's important to me in my life, and which is my family and friends, and that motivation. I want to improve and be better so I can be better for them as well. I also thought about things like what causes me anxiety and stress, and what are some bad habits I might want to get out of. And I realized largely this was going to be about kind of using the planner just for some kind of stability, some basics, get some foundation pieces in place, as well as a couple other little projects here and there. And one piece of advice I'll give is just to be honest with yourself. I found I caught myself having moments of, oh, this is embarrassing. What are people going to think? It's not going to be worth it. But it's better to be honest with yourself, especially about the things that you want to improve or make better. And just remember, this is all about you. And just going through the process can be good no matter what the outcome may be. And that leads into the second step, which was the theme. I am a big fan of fantasy, so I very quickly leaned that way. Terry Pratchett in his Discworld series is actually one of my favorites. But for this, I decided to go the route of Dungeons and Dragons. Even though I don't play myself, I watch a lot of people play it and I enjoy it. Critical Role is one of the main ones, but I watch several other kind of groups playing as well. But there's a few different ways you can go with this. You can go like a Western theme. You could do like an arcade theme. Pick something that just sort of gets your interest going. And I also like the fantasy because it would require a little bit of maybe creative writing and thinking as well. But if that's not your thing, maybe there's another approach that you can take that'll appeal to you a little bit more. And so once I had done my thinking, kind of had an idea of the theme, I started to hone in on the mechanics and the structure. Now, because I'm using sort of Dungeons and Dragons as a bit of a base, which kind of follows along with a lot of, tabletop roleplay games, actually even probably some video games as well, the benefit of that was I could use that format. So I decided to go with kind of having a campaign, like an overarching idea, having quests in each of the areas, breaking down tasks, so things that I wanted to be consistent with, and then associating those things with XP, which is, essentially points that translate to levels, and then rewards. That's sort of the gamify piece of it. And so, yeah, that's what I used. But again, there's actually different options I've seen out there. So think about what works for you. But this is a good one if you're sort of unsure about where to go with this. And then it was time to actually put the content together. So I went back to, again, my notes on the reflection piece about what I wanted to focus on. And so I did start with some of the creative stuff. I created sort of a character for myself, gave myself a name, a bit of a background. I created a kind of campaign theme, which was around sort of stability and consistency. I created quests, which are sort of, overreaching goals in each of the areas, which again was largely about kind of stability and just consistency and good routines and habits. And then that broke down into tasks, kind of more specific pieces, that had kind of frequency associated with them, points associated with them. Now, I will say that I went down a bit of a rabbit hole here. There were spreadsheets. I ended up, I think, at one point with like, I don't know, like 30 different kind of tasks or quests, or sorry, 30 different tasks. It was a lot. So I did, and again, I've been working on this. My philosophy with this has been to kind of work on it when I felt inspired to and motivated to. So I took a little step away and came back and simplified it. And that helped a lot. And part of the reason for that also was this is my first time trying this. So I didn't want to dive in too far. I also added a few more fun pieces as well. And now it was time for creation. Let's actually make this thing. So I did consider a few different options for the actual notebook I would use. I also briefly considered digital, but I'm an analog kind of person and I'm online enough. I considered disc bound, a moleskin, a full bound planner, and I settled in pretty quickly on the Traveler's Notebook. Those of you who are familiar with me know that I use a Hobonichi Cousin as my primary planner, and then I complement that with Traveler's Notebooks. It's a system I love. There's a lot of different options for notebooks, different styles, and it's relatively cost effective. Also, I decided I picked some colors, sort of a blue and beigey theme to go with it. I decided to use some handwriting. I wanted it to have a bit of a different feel. And also, you know what? I didn't know what was going to be the outcome of this, but even if it's a disaster, it can be a beautiful disaster, as long as it's something that I enjoy. And now it's time for me to share. Here is the notebook I created. It's a Traveler's Notebook dot grid. I just think the color went well, and yeah. I also decided to use kind of brown as an accent. I found some craft paper bits I had. I also found this metal feather. I don't know how or why I had it, but I thought it looked cool. I've also got some markers I'm using. I had some dot markers that I had never used before, so I've incorporated them as well. So, okay, very simple. I decided to use the little bits of brown paper as sort of accents or headers. I wrote a description of a character. I did name the character Ren after my cat Ren. I just kind of like the name. I gave myself abilities, which I might explore a little more if I continue. So I created a campaign. So this is sort of the overall theme. And I've decided to use this for 4 weeks. So each week I will track in here my total kind of points, XP, and what level that puts me at. And then I'll have a grand total at the bottom. And then for each area, each quest, kind of something similar. I've got a place to record each of the 4 weeks in a total. And then, so these are each of the things I'm going to be working on. And here's a little key to understand my circles, but basically each circle represents a week. And then within each circle, I kind of know the spot for what day of the week. So if I do that activity, I'll put a dot. So here's kind of what it looks like. So basically, I know there's 7 spots for dots, and I'll put them in. And I think at the end, it's going to give me a kind of cool visual. And I just like that it gets away from more traditional spreadsheety lists. And I created similar pages for the other 2 areas. Again, I wanted to keep this simple so that hopefully I'll be encouraged to use it. And then I created some fun bits. I created side quests with kind of specific things I want to do. I still need to think of rewards. I did this creativity exercise where I'll kind of roll to see if I'm going to draw or do watercolor, journal, and a prompt, because I want to do more creative things. I also created this ongoing journey. So the idea is each day that I do 5 things, I can put a dot and move forward. And when I hit the blue ones, I'll get a reward. And then here is the full levels and rewards table. I don't have the rewards in yet because I think they're going to be monetary, but I'm not quite sure the amounts. But I am going to try and fill that in before I start using it tomorrow. So that is my planner. And just a couple of closing thoughts. Overall, when I look back, the challenges for me were just scale and scope, but really insecurity, thinking that it's not going to be good enough. You know, it's not going to be comprehensive enough or complete enough, or I shouldn't be sharing it. But the benefit was it was a creative process. I did enjoy it, and it helped me figure myself out a bit. So, overall, I'm really happy I did it. I'm looking forward to using it, and I would absolutely encourage you, if you have an interest, to give it a try. My next step is I'm going to hopefully use this through the end of May. I'll reflect back on it, revise it, and hopefully be setting up the next phase. And my advice truly is give it a try and just enjoy the journey. Yeah. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed this video. It's a little different. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you do want to see the outcome of this at the end of May. And certainly share if you're doing a planner or you have any other thoughts. Thank you for watching.